Hey guys, Doman here with another video. That's right, we're gonna be talking about the Kraken in this one, and I have been absolutely cracking to make this video. Oh, that was bad. Alright, but yeah, I'm really hyped to make this video, because the Kraken, to me personally, it holds a very special place in my heart. I absolutely love the ship for it's the way it looks is really nice, but what it does is absolutely amazing. It fills a gap in Star Citizen that essentially needed to be filled, especially in a capital ship role. And it being a civilian capital ship really does change the game in a monumental way, and I'll get into that later down the line. But in this video, we will be focusing on the Kraken. We'll be talking about its strengths, its weaknesses, what it has, what it, is missing maybe perhaps, and a whole bunch of other details, the lore post on it, everything about it I will try to cover in this video. Now please note, some of this stuff may change in time because this ship is in active development, and we all know what that means if you are a veteran backer. If not, and you're new to Star Citizen, well, what it means is the stats that are given here and on the ship matrix may change in the coming years as the ship is further designed. It may even get bigger. And I know that's hard to wrap your head around because it's already a big ship. I mean, like, you can imagine its shadow looming over you and you look up and it's just like, ba-bam! This huge, ginormous gargant of a ship. And yeah, it's no javelin in terms of size, but this thing is bigger than an Idris. This thing is huge. It's so big it has a train on it, for goodness sake. But yeah, we're going to cover this ship in really intense detail, I'd like to say. And yeah, so I'll let this trailer play out, and we'll get right to the juicy bits. Alright.
Drake Interplanetary. We got your back.
So, let's jump into the Kraken's brochure. CitizenCon 2948. Defending Freedom. Drake Interplanetary CEO interview. Protecting the people, protecting the future. We all have something worth fighting for. Whether it's family, business, property, hell, even pride. Regardless, security should be on everyone's mind. Andon Arden, Drake Interplanetary's newly installed CEO, has wasted no time in steering the company towards his bold new vision. As we tour his personal caterpillar, a lean juggernaut outfitted to compete in what he describes as whale racing. Arden explains how he envisages moving away from the controversy that has mirrored Drake in the past and towards a new future, one that sees Drake playing a big role in helping to protect. We all know Drake's history. It started as a pure venture, building ships for everyone. The hard-working men and women that pulled humanity from the gutters and overcrowded Earth engineered their way to prosperity in the stars. Unfortunately, everyone is an all-inclusive concept, and the brand became synonymous with less than reputable characters who tend to take the wealth and dignity from those who worked hard to earn it. There's a very old adage that says, "There's no such thing as bad publicity," but I'm guessing whoever first said that never had to tangle with pirates. When I stepped into the Drake ship, I made it my mission to get back to the company's roots, to what Drake Interplanetary really truly stood for, to recapture that lost essence. According to Arden, one of the first things he did as CEO was turn to the people who helped make the company great in the first place, the legions of loyal pilots who swear by the ships Drake produces. Months of market research and interviews were used to determine what it was that people were looking for in the next generation of vehicles. The results came back loud and clear: affordable, reliable ships that provide the means to make an honest living. But that was just one piece of the puzzle. It turns out that the other thing people across the Empire are concerned with is having a way to protect that honest living. That's where the Kraken comes in. A mobile armored fortress, Drake's new Kraken is the epitome of self-sufficiency. As described by Arden, it's a turnkey solution for militia and private security forces throughout the universe. With this instrument of empowerment, I want to change what you think of when you think of Drake. I want a Drake ship on your scatter to elicit a sigh of relief. I want you to know landing next to one means you're in friendly company. I want you to choose to pilot one with the confidence that you're investing in a business that will continue to look after you and always have your back. No matter what the future holds, Arden promises that Drake will continue to develop ships, empower individuals to work together and to take humanity further, to reach beyond the stars and impact the universe in countless meaningful ways, big and small. Or to quote the passionate CEO, to build a future worth fighting for. Release the Kraken. Drake's first capital ship is here. You're welcome. We threw out the rulebook to redefine private use capital class ships, attack carriers, and the very nature of personal freedom. With comfortable habs for a full crew, mammoth cargo capacity, and enough armament to blow even the most daunting frigate out of the sky. This self-sustaining flying fortress is the most ambitious project Drake has ever undertaken, and is a testament to the empowerment of the people. Power to the people. Our designers tapped into the same intense customer outreach practices that conceived the Vulture and pulled forth the unyielding spirit of protection. The Kraken is the result. We got to the heart of what the hard-working folks of the UAE want from a capital ship. Inspired by these people, the Kraken's adaptability mirrors the diversity of the Empire. Attack carrier. The first and foremost, the Kraken is a protector and a beacon of freedom in a too often cruel universe. For those tasked with safekeeping citizens unable to protect themselves, the Kraken is both a sanctuary and self-sustained war machine ready to take on the most daunting adversaries. Heavy lifter. With the Kraken able to provide ample protection, precious cargo has no problem reaching its final destination intact. It's the ideal base of operations for a fleet of data-running heralds, or a mobile warehouse to load up a trusty cutlass. Did we mention the storage capacity is through the roof? Whatever your business, you'll find the Kraken is a functional, comfortable, and secure base of operations. Juggernaut of industry. You might have started with a single Vulture, but now business is booming. Why waste time, fuel, and credits on endless planet-side drops when you can bring your HQ with you? With space for an armada of salvage and security ships, along with a mini fleet of dragonflies, you can keep working longer and safer. That's just good business. Landing pads. The Kraken has 6 versatile landing pads to support a varying fleet of ships. 4 smaller pads suit fighter-sized ships, such as the Buccaneer, while the 2 upper pads support larger vessels like the Cutlass. The ship's varied functionality means the Kraken can support ships for the duration of almost any journey. To the pilots in your fleet, the Kraken will become a welcome home away from home. Hangars. Deep in the belly of the Kraken lies a spacious multi-purpose hangar. Keep your org topped off with fuel and supplies. Spring serious firepower on unsuspecting interlopers, and keep your fleet ready to roll at any moment. You're not limited to a specific type of ship either. If it fits, it sits. Dragonfly bays. The rear of the ship houses a vast cargo hold and a bay designed as a one-stop shop for dragonflies or other small vehicles. You can configure the hangar in a number of different ways. After all, this is your ship. Casing the Kraken. Thanks to a logical layout, the Kraken's vast interior is easy to navigate. 2 upper-level entry docks feed directly into the helm, with access to the bridge, hangars, cargo hold, engineering, and personal quarters. Manned turrets are located throughout the ship, although only permitted crew may enter thanks to the bespoke security protocols. 2 docking collars on both sides, port and starboard sides of the ship, grant access via airlock into the upper public corridor. Entry to the main public corridor is also possible from the 3 lifts that connect to the landing pads above. Toward the rear of the ship, public accommodations can be found for visitors and associates. So that pretty much wraps up the Kraken brochure, but there's a lot more on the ship that I'm going to cover. So there's a lot more other stuff also in the brochure, such as advertisements and whatnot, that don't really talk about the Kraken at all, so we kind of skipped past those. So yeah, let's continue on and let's get cracking. So now we're gonna cover the Q&A for the Drake Kraken. Do the Kraken shields cover other ships parked on the deck? The Kraken shields cover the hull of the ship and do not cover the ships or people that may be on the exposed landing pads. Ships contained inside the hangars are covered by the shields. With improvements to shield tech coming with single distance field in the future, the projected bubble people currently see will be removed, with a more hull wrapping projection of a shield energy. What are the Kraken's refuel, restock, and repair abilities for docked ships? The Kraken is, in many ways, a mobile base. This means it is able to refuel, restock, and repair ships that have landed on it, but these resources must be taken from the Kraken stores. Can you quantum travel while ships are parked on the deck? What about with people on the deck? Yes, you'll be able to quantum with ships parked on the deck. Quantum drives in our universe create a little bubble around the ship to move it, and projects outwards to cover those in very close proximity to the hull. Like other ships in our game, being outside your ship while in quantum travel is an extremely dangerous scenario, so it is not recommended due to the slightest misstep resulting in death or abandonment in deep space. What are your plans for the landing on the Kraken while it is in motion? Like the Idris or other ships where you can land whilst they are in motion, will provide automated landing solutions for those who do not wish to attempt a manual landing. With this, will provide a safe and secure landing at the expense of time, similar to our current automated landings at stations and rest stops. Can you spawn ships from the Kraken? When you spawn your Kraken, you'll be able to spawn ships on or in it, if you own them. But beyond that point, no other ships can be spawned dynamically on board. It is similar to how the Constellation will be able to have ground vehicle within it when spawned, but is unable to spawn another ground vehicle in the hold mid-flight. Players landing on the ship during gameplay will have their ships permanently on the pad. What happens to the landed/hangar landed ships if the Kraken pilot logs off or is disconnected? And what will happen when the owners of the landed ships log off? Do their ships persist until the Kraken is despawned, or will the pad free for another one to land? The Kraken will follow the same rule set as a persistent bed log-off system we currently have in game. If the owner of the Kraken logs off, and there are no other players on board, then it will be despawned. If there are still players on board, the Kraken and ships on board will persist. If a player lands their ship on the Kraken, then proceeds to log off, their ship will persist with the Kraken until the point the Kraken is despawned or destroyed. At which point, if a player then rejoins, will either have it respawned at the point the Kraken was, or have to reclaim it in the event it was destroyed. How does the Kraken armor compare to other ships in its size class like the Idris? In true Drake fashion, the approach to construction prizes pragmatism and cost effectiveness. Consequently, the Kraken is substantially less sturdy than the Idris and other dedicated military ships that are expected to face direct or heavy capital scale firepower. What is meant by the towards the rear ship public accommodations can be found for visitors and associates? Does the Kraken offer any special functional or gameplay for public services like shops, bars, medical, trading, for those who are waiting for repair or just visiting? There are onboard accommodation rooms to cover 1 to 2 players per landing pad. These are basic habs like you'd find at Grimhex, and provide somewhat to rest, change, and sleep. There are no dedicated facilities like bars or trading areas on board at this time. With the Kraken being capital ship size, will it have escape pods? Now, unlike other Drake ships, Drake sees no need to provide expensive escape pods when the Kraken can hold plenty of ships to facilitate escape in the unlikely event of an emergency. How many ships can the Kraken hold and still quantum drive with? The current design for quantum travel requires all the doors to be shut before the quantum drive can be initiated, with no requirements beyond that, such as checking for maximum ship amounts. The Kraken can therefore quantum travel with a full complement of ships, although, as mentioned earlier, being on deck is a risky proposition. Can the Kraken equip military-grade items or only civilian/industrial? The Kraken can only equip civilian and industrial items, and comes with grade C items by default. The Kraken brochure talks about configuring the rear hangars to fit our needs. Does this mean the Kraken might have some modular capabilities to outfit those hangars to suit other functions like expended medical, S&R, or salvage processing? Drake always looks to maximize the use of their spaceships, and whilst these rear cargo holds are ostensibly for cargo, there is a significant amount of real estate that can be repurposed in the future for alternative uses. How will this ship defend against armed boarding parties or other guests who refuse to leave? The internal layout of the ship provides quite a few choke points from the landing pads, allowing a somewhat organized defense against boarding. There are no inbuilt mechanics within the ship to deal with guests who refuse to leave. That will be down to the owner's persuasion and techniques. Can we transfer cargo between docked/landing ships? If not, the cargo can be transferred between docked/landing ships and the Kraken? Question. Every external landing pad has access to the internal tram route via the landing hatch, located within the airlock anti-check main chamber. The internal tram is primarily designed to carry cargo between the pads and the main cargo hold of the ship to facilitate cargo moving between the ships and the Kraken itself. The Kraken shows some concept of it landed in a desert, as well as parked at Lorville. How can we expect it to fare in atmospheric flight? Does it have VTOL? As with all ships of its size, the atmospheric flight performance can be characterized as poor at best. The Kraken does have multiple VTOL thrusters to allow it to take off and land in atmosphere. There are two located under the front ears, as some people call them. The pivot to face a 90 degrees down and are more built into the underside of the rear hull in a permanent down-facing layout. Right, so now we're going to look at the technical overview of the ship. This is my favorite part of these videos, that and the theory side. So let's jump right in. So focus is multi-role light carrier. Description: the Kraken is the protector and a beacon of freedom in a too often cruel universe. For those tasked with safekeeping citizens, unable to protect themselves, the Kraken is both a sanctuary and a self-contained war machine, ready to take on the most daunting adversaries. Drake has thrown out the rulebook to redefine private use capital class ships, attack carriers, and the very nature of personal freedom. It's nothing if not a testament to the empowerment of the people. Yours only for 1650 $99. Oh man, you know, it's a really cool ship. But yeah, let's continue here. So measurement, we have a length of 270 meters. It's pretty long. Beam 104 meters and a height of 64 meters. It's pretty big. Size, capital. Mass, they haven't given it a mass yet. The cargo capacity is through the roof. You have a 3,792 standard cargo units of space. Alright. And it's got a max crew of 10 right now, and a min crew has not been listed. The rest of the stats on the this page have not been listed. So that basically covers the basics. It has a lot of cargo, and like a lot of cargo carrying capacity. It's pretty big, as I mentioned throughout the video. So let's jump into more of the technical side of things in terms of components and stuff as of right now. So you're looking at a large radar, same as the Idris. Now the reason these capital ships do not have a capital radar other than the Polaris is because otherwise they'll be able to detect everything right away. Like, you know, there's no way of sneaking up on them. The Polaris, however, is a U-boat designed to destroy ships like capital class ships, and that's why it has a capital class radar. It's designed to be able to detect its prey before it can see it. So let's continue. So it has a large radar. It has some medium computers. It has 6 of them total. It also has 2 capital class power plants. You've got 2 capital class coolers, and 2 capital class shield generators. So it's got a fair decent amount of tanking capability to it. It's a big beast. It's able to hold its own. So fuel intakes, you have 4 capital class fuel intakes, fair enough, 2 capital class fuel tanks, 1 capital class quantum drive, 1 capital class jump module, 1 capital class quantum fuel tank. And let's have a look at the thrusters here. So you got 6 capital class VTOL thrusters, you got 2 capital class retro thrusters, then you have 9 capital class, 8 capital class main thrusters. Now that is a lot of thrust. And then you have 12 capital class maneuvering thrusters. Now that's really, really good. It's especially for a ship like this. It's going to be very quick in a straight line compared to other capital ships. What I mean by that is you've got a lot of forward thrust, a fairly decent amount of maneuvering, but it's got a lot of forward thrust. I can imagine slowing down though is going to be quite tricky with a ship like this, because you only have 2 capital class retro thrusters. You're going to be using your VTOLs to basically slow down, but they only move in a 90-degree angle, so I don't really think that's going to be able to help too much, to actually be honest. I think that's mainly for just going forwards and lifting off of a planet, which is quite problematic. So yeah, you're going to have some real trouble slowing down with this behemoth. So let's jump into the turrets. Okay, so you have got 4 dual size 5 remote turrets, which is pretty handy. You also have 4 size 6 duals manned turrets, and then you have the big one. You got 1 dual size 8 manned turret. Now that is monstrous. That is a legendary amount of firepower. Like seriously, it's through the roof. And I get it, it's an attack carrier and it's supposed to be able to take on the most daunting of frigates, but that's a really, really large amount of firepower. Plus with the ships you're carrying, you're carrying a lot of DPS right there. So it's pretty good. So those are the technical specifications as listed here. Right, so most of the time when people do these technical overview videos, this is where it would end because they can't dig up any more information. But luckily for you, I've managed to find some more info on the Kraken. As I said before, this ship holds a very special place in my heart and I absolutely adore it. So let's go into more technical specs. So you've got your largest gun. The biggest manned turret is at the very nose of this ship. Then you have 2 more manned turrets just behind it. Behind the 3rd manned turret, and I mean right behind it, you'll have a capital class shield generator module located right there, which is pretty handy. On the upper level, right below the 4 hangars, landing pads and airlocks configurations, you'll have your main deck, which is where 4 of your hab pods are located. Then on the lower deck, below the deck where the tram travels along, you have 2 more living quarters basically, which is pretty good. The tram itself, however, will travel from the midpoint of the front, so the very first pad, all the way past cargo to the very back of the ship, and I'm guessing that's for storing the tram maybe, and that's pretty useful. The tram itself is known as an air car. It carries 4 people and holds 12 units of cargo for transporting from the elevators to the storage units on board the Kraken to and fro. So each of these points of interest, so the airlocks, is linked directly to an elevator that then travels directly down to the tram line itself, so you can easily get the cargo from where, like the main deck, down to the lower level, past the living quarters level, to where the tram is located, the tram line basically, which is really good. So you then also have more hab pods and whatnot, which is pretty handy, just located behind the Buccaneer habs. You have the hangar hab pods, even more, 4 located, as I said, on the lower level, so that is a lot of habs. That's definitely a large portion of, like living space, basically, for people who are not crew members, which is really useful. You then also have the hangar for repairing ships and whatnot and putting them back together. You have that space for 2 small ships in there. You can basically, whatever, if it sits, it fits rule, right? I mean, the Kraken, essentially, you could use this as a huge carrier and carry a whole ton of light fighters if you really wanted to. Like, really a large quantity of fighters, and just swarm someone to death with those if you have the people to man them. So, cargo. Cargo 1 is basically located at the front of the cargo sector, which is directly parallel with the front of the bridge straight down. Now, that's the first unit of cargo. Cargo 2. Cargo 2 is the main storage area for the cargo and where the main elevator is, where you'll be able to deploy cargo and whatnot, like drop it off to the ground and stuff. The front of that, there's another elevator that looks like it'd be useful for dropping maybe a small land vehicle, but the main cargo storage area looks like it could possibly carry quite a few tanks. Now, that's pretty interesting. Considering this thing is a mobile HQ, you could land it somewhere, deploy a bunch of scout vehicles like your Dragonflies, then deploy an armored column of tanks, and then have air superiority as your fighters just, like, you know, flee the ship, and maybe a dropship or two, and just, you know, you have air superiority, you got ground superiority, you got the habs for everybody. It's pretty awesome. It's very very cool. I really like that aspect of this ship. And yeah, let's continue. So at the very top of the ship, obviously, you have the bridge. Then you have the break room directly below the bridge. You then have the crew room directly next to that, which is pretty useful. And next to that, you have the captain's quarters. Something else to note, the ship does have a planning room, which is directly behind the bridge itself. Then behind that, you have the manned turret, and you have the Dragonfly bays, 4 of which is really cool. Now beneath that, you go a little bit further into the ship, and you'll find the major fuel tanks. These big circle things in a green area just below the blue area with the bridges, those are your fuel tanks for refueling the ships on the deck. Now you may be wondering, where are the components for the Kraken located at this point in time? Well, the Kraken's components are located more towards the back. Towards the back, you'll see this area, like where the engines are, you see it grayed out, but then you'll see a sort of weird bluish area. Now that's engineering. Now we're going to the very bottom of the ship here. Engineering has basically the hydrogen fuel tank and also the quantum fuel tank, which is really cool. Some batteries are located also a little bit further along towards the man turret. The green icon you can see there, that is a large, like one of the big guns. That's located there. Then you have some more turrets located along the sides here. You can see for personal defense of the ship, which this ship has 360-degree coverage of defense, which is pretty remarkable in my honest opinion. I think it's very useful. And I really like the idea that it's a ship that was designed with, you know, the current plan in mind. It's not designed necessarily with campaign focus on it. It's designed for, you know, fun first initially, and for, you know, balancing and whatnot. Hopefully some of the aspects will change maybe in the future, and I don't mean I want to change the ship dramatically, but what I would really like them to change is just basically bring a few things in line with what the initial design blurb said. But yeah, let's continue here. So this Kraken ship, as you can see here, you can see all the rooms. I've basically labeled them out for you. You got your storage, you got your cargo 2, you got all those stuff, you got your man turrets, and you can see this diagram here. So there's a little bit more depth I'd like to go into on this ship. So using the Kraken. Right, so using the Kraken is going to be a lot of fun, obviously, like all capital ships in the game. But the really remarkable thing about this ship, I find personally, is the fact that it's the first military style in terms of it's got a crap ton of firepower and it's going to be able to crush most things it runs into. It's a daily driver. And you might be wondering what I mean by that. Well, it's got enough cargo space to be able to make its money back, and it can also be used economically. You can, like, as a business hub, you can basically cover this thing in vultures or prospectors, take them to a resource-rich location, have them do their thing, return, refuel, go do their thing again, and unload their cargo, obviously. Then do it again and again and again until your cargo storage area is full, all of their holds are full, they land on the deck, and you can also bring along the fighters to protect them as well. How handy is that? I mean, that is pretty useful. They're also talking about modularity. Now, modularity, like current plans, they're talking about maybe adding a salvage processing room or something like that. You swap out maybe a cargo section for that, and then swap out another cargo area for like a medical facility. Because you have to remember, guys, the Kraken does not have escape pods. That's very worrying in a game that has permadeath. So it's a bit of a trade-off. It is a Drake ship, therefore no escape pods. But that's life, you know what I mean? I doubt this ship is ever going to be in a situation where it would be basically destroyed unless the captain had no clue what he was doing. when you realize you're outmatched and outgunned, it's time to leave. If you are under heavy sustained attack, like all of a sudden are ambushed, then it makes sense. Like you have no means of escape. You enter into a fight, which, you know, by your calculations you should win, and all of a sudden a Polaris shows up and you don't even know it's there. It launches its payload and then the back of your ship is broken. Now it's time to evacuate. I can imagine that would be a problem. So there's all sorts of repurposing they're looking into doing with the ship, with the areas, like basically customizing it to your needs and whatnot. I really would not be surprised if next year they come out with an upgrade kit, like they did for the Idris. They came out, like the civilian one, the Idris P, they came out with the K upgrade. I would not be surprised if they did that for the Kraken. They came up with maybe a different pack, like an upgrade pack, where everything has industrial grade components, and you've got maybe bigger guns, and you have like, I don't know, maybe some more other kinds of rooms, like less cargo, a med bay, some stuff like that, you know what I mean? And that would make sense to me personally. That really does make sense. So there's a lot to do with this ship that you can do. It's a daily driver. It's got enough cargo space to basically cover its own running costs and make back a nice return. It's a Drake ship, so it's going to be cheap and easy to run, which is useful. Downsides: it's a Drake ship, so don't expect any bells and whistles and fancy equipment. It's going to be bare bones in terms of what you get, you know what I mean? It's basically going to be this rugged, tough, no nonsense, I'm here to do my job kind of ship. And it's a bit of a jack of all trades. Now, it's a attack carrier, and that's a very interesting concept in itself. Most carriers are designed to be at the very back of the fleet, and, you know, or the dead center where they can't be harmed, surrounded by things like frigates and whatnot to just deploy fighters from. But this is an attack carrier, meaning it's designed to be able to go out there, find a target, launch a bunch of fighters, and then join them in the attack, which is really cool. I love that. There's some cheeky concept artwork I'm posting up here. You can see of it basically landing behind a shot down Polaris, which I'm guessing is a nod to the whole, hey, we're also doing the militia protection thing too now kind of deal. Because you can remember their initial blurb on the Polaris was, hey, this ship is designed to protect citizens of the UEE, to arm citizens, and the whole, like, militia mobilization initiative. Then the Kraken came around and was just like, yeah, we're doing that too now. But yeah, the Kraken is a really, really cool ship. And I have been dying for a Drake capital ship for the longest of time. I absolutely love it. I think it adds some really great variety to the game that was really needed. Now, in terms of the next capital ship, I honestly think, like, I know some people are saying it's going to be a Jean capital ship, and that would be really cool. But to be honest, I think it would make a lot of sense for them to make a Anvil capital ship. And you might be wondering, why Anvil? Well, Anvil is the current military contractor for the UEE. They're trying to move away from Aegis Dynamics. Aegis Dynamics has a really horrible history where they were involved with the Messers, which you can learn more about in my history videos, my lore videos, where I cover the history of the UEE and Aegis Dynamics and their involvement in that whole ordeal. So basically, they're moving towards other contractors, and Anvil got the major contracts for basically building the small, medium, and large ships for the UEE, which is pretty cool. And I would love to see a Anvil frigate. That would be so cool. Or even something along the lines of maybe a Hammerhead or something. Something like that, but from Anvil would be really cool to see. I love the Anvil, like, design language. It's very Aliens in terms of, like, you can see the dropship. It's amazing. But yeah, I've rambled on far long enough now. I'd like to say thank you first off for watching the video. It does mean an awful lot to me, and please leave a like in the like thing, and have a chat with me in the comments if you want about the ship. We can maybe have a bit of a conversation and whatnot. Also, I'd like to say a huge thank you to my Patreons for supporting the channel. You guys are amazing. Names up on the screen now. Ka-chow. So yeah, thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. You guys keep it running. Thank you so much. You can support the channel now from as little as $2 a month. So if you are up for basically supporting the channel, you like the content I do, and you'd like me to produce more regularly, then jump into the Patreon. It's what I use to supply the channel. I've turned off the advertisements because they get on my nerves so much. God, I don't want to put you guys through the ads. Ads are awful. So Patreon is what I'm going to use to run the channel on. So, if you're looking for a Bar Citizen event, then why not check out Bar Citizen San Antonio, Texas? A really awesome group of individuals. They host this Bar Citizen event, and yeah, you should check it out. In the description below, we have a link to their Discord, and yeah, you can have a chat with them and see if you can attend and whatnot, and ask them where they are and where the next event's being held. I can tell you now that they are some of the nicest individuals I could recommend to you, because yeah, a lot of the guys there are actually in my organization, and they are really awesome individuals. So go check it out, Bar Citizen San Antonio, Texas. So yeah, also a really awesome thing you guys can check out. So as you know, the Kraken's LTI sale will always be LTI and whatnot. It's over $1,000, but I'm not sure how much availability these ships will have. But as you know, the only way to get LTI right now is to buy a ship with new money. Or is it? Now there's another way, or like you can upgrade of course, but there is another way you can do it now, by the way, folks. If you'd like to check out a place you might be able to get a ship on discount, you get any ship you want with LTI if they have it in stock, or basically grab any ship you want right now. Check out a link in the description below for a really awesome place called Star Hangar. Use that link and it will take you directly there, and it will help me out a great deal. Thank you guys so much yet again for watching the video. You guys are amazing. And yeah, so you know the drill, commanders. Fly safe, and I'll see you in the verse.